Welcome to the regular meeting of council for the municipality of Central Elgin. Today is Monday, June 22nd. I'll invite everybody to stand for the national anthem.
Home and native land, true native love, in all us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true North, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep the land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The municipality of Central Elgin acknowledges that it's located on the lands of the McKee Treaty that was signed by the Wyandot and Anishinaabe nations, including ancestors of Chippewa, the Thames First Nations. It is also the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaronk, and Mississauga nations. These First Nations continue to provide ongoing stewardship for the lands and waters in the municipality of Central Elgin. At this time, I'd like to remind council of disclosure of pecuniary interest. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm declaring interest in item DPE 4226, which is 410 Sunset Drive, and also to the associated bylaw 2026-46. I don't have a direct interest in the project. However, an individual who does have an association with the application has made a personal contribution to my mayoral campaign. So for best transparency, I will not participate. And if council is willing, I would like us to divide the bylaws so that I can not participate as well.
Okay, I believe that's done. And adoption of the previous, any other pecuniary interests? Seeing none, okay. Look for mover and seconder for the adoption of the regular meeting from May 11th. Councillor Griffin, Councillor Bachman, any comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to the public meeting and drainage minutes. Quarter revision, Powers Drain number 1. We have Councillor Connors. This is a meeting as required by the Drainage Act to hear appeals regarding the assessment for the following drainage projects. Powers Drain number 1. I'll ask, I think it's Brandon that's going to speak to this, I'm guessing, or is it Jeff? Director of Planning and Engineering Services, to provide a brief overview of the process with respect to the quarter revision. Jeff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Council previously accepted the engineer's report for the Powers Drain on May 11th. Tonight's quarter revision is the next step in the approval process. Under the Drainage Act, the engineer's report sets out the proposed drainage works and includes assessment schedules and maintenance schedules, which distribute costs amongst the lands and roads within the watershed that benefit from the drain. The purpose of tonight's Court of Revision is to provide affected landowners the opportunity to appeal their assessment based on one of the following grounds. One, that any land or road that has been assessed too high or too low. Two, that any land or road that should have been assessed has not been assessed. And three, that due consideration has not been given to the type of land use. It is also important to note that the Court of Revision's authority tonight is limited to the assessment schedule. The court does not change the scope of work or the overall project costs. Finally, the total cost of the project does not change as a result of an assessment adjustment. If the court reduces one assessment, the corresponding amount must be redistributed amongst the remaining assessed properties and roads. And if the court increases an assessment, the increase must be offset elsewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Ms. Leach, what appeals have been received relative to the proposed drainage project?
Mr. Chair, I have not received any appeals.
Okay. Any members of the public who have made an appeal and is present may now have an opportunity to speak. Seeing none, do members of the Court of Revision have any questions? No? Okay. I'll now call the vote for the adopted schedule as presented. All in favor? Oh, I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Connors, Councillor Watson. And I'll now call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. Anyone who would like a copy of the notice of decision should email info@centralalgon.org. And moving on to the application owner, Andrea Gruner. Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, notice was provided to the public within 60 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on June 9th, 2026. Notice was also posted on the municipal website and physically on the property via a sign.
Okay. If the applicant or agent is in attendance, please come forward to explain the application. Hi.
My name is Richard Gruner.
Richard, are you okay to just push the button on the mic so it comes on?
That
Thank
one?
you.
I'm okay to do that, yes. So I'll start again. Thanks again for having me here. My name is Richard Gruner. I'm the husband of Andrea Gruner. Our family is starting just a small kayak business out of our home. We're utilizing our garage as holding of kayaks and being a dealer for winter kayaks down here in Port Stanley. We're just asking for a slight variance of 15% to 20% so we can hold the kayaks there. People are coming. They're only coming by point of knowing that through online services, that kind of an idea. So we know anyone that's coming onto the property and just having that opportunity just to sell them that way online as well as by appointment only.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions regarding the proposal?
Mr. Chair, correspondence was received from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority with confirmation of no objection and that the subject lands are not affected by natural hazard regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act.
Thank you. The floor is now open for questions from members of the committee. Does committee have any questions? Councillor Graham.
Through the chair to Rich. Hi, Rich. It says occasional, that you'll have occasional now. If you could just quantify that a little bit for me when you're saying that people will occasionally be coming. In the medical world, occasional means 33%, constant and frequent. So can you just give me a rough estimate just for the neighbors?
Yeah, so again, we're selling them online through Facebook Marketplace, that kind of idea, and some, social media. So it would be mostly weekends, like Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and the odd time through the weeknight if somebody's coming to pick up something at that time. That's why it's seasonal as well, because kayaks, you don't use them much through the winter. So
Follow up, Councillor Graham.
Through the chair, just to the CAO. when someone is operating a commercial business like that, does it require anything else through like commercial taxes or anything like that through MPAC?
I will defer that question to our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer.
Through you. The property would be assessed through impact, so I'm assuming right now it's assessed as residential, unless we draw attention to it with impact, and then they would potentially reassess it, but right now it's residential.
Councillor Graham?
Through the chair, are we required to do that? To notify when we know that there's a business going on or is being started in our municipality?
I'm not sure about that. I can look into that and get back to you.
Any other questions? Okay, the floor is now open for questions from members of the public. Does any members of the public have any questions? Seeing none, everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. Is the committee prepared to make a decision or reserve its decision? Mayor Sloan? No? Okay.
Just was going to vote for the decision when it's called.
Okay. I will call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Those wanting to be notified of the committee's decision should contact the municipality. Thank you, everyone. Minor variance for 510 Lower Spring. Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
Mr. Chair, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 60 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on June 9th, 2026. Notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff and also posted to the municipal website.
Thank you. If the applicant or agent is in attendance, please come forward and explain the application.
Hello, James McLean, proud owner of a 100-year-old little cottage on Erie West Beach. And I'm here today to reapply for a minor variance that was already approved as a renovation. Unfortunately, during construction and or tear down, the walls that we intended to keep just weren't going to be structurally sound enough for long-term viability. So they came down, and now I'm back here having to apply for the same design and plan that we had intended on originally, but as a new build. So nothing has changed fundamentally in the original design and plan.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions regarding the proposal?
Mr. Chair, correspondence was received from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority with confirmation of no objection to the proposal and that the subject lands are affected by natural hazard regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act, whereby written permission is required of KCCA prior to any development.
Thank you. The floor is now open for questions from members of the committee. Does the committee have any questions? Seeing none, the floor is now open for questions from members of the public. Do any members of the public have any questions? Seeing none. Oh, hi. Just have you state your name.
Sure. My name is Joe DeLosa. I'm at the property just east of 510 Lower Spring. I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak today. I have a small presentation. So my primary ask of the committee today is to decline the application for minor variance, but at the very least, defer the decision for further staff and committee due diligence for the following reasons. The first is the variance is clearly impactful to the adjacent neighbor to the east, so that's our family, and cannot reasonably be considered minor as defined by Section 45 of the Planning Act. I believe there needs to be a fuller discussion from the committee and staff if this is truly a minor variance as intended under the Planning Act. To support this, I will be providing evidence for your consideration specific to the fourth test in Section 45, that it's not a minor variance. The second reason I'm asking to support a decline or deferral is there are some unusual irregularities with the application that need to be addressed. I'll bring those examples to your attention as well for your consideration. So context, so Mr. McLean is proposing on the eastern side of his property to have a 2-foot setback from the property line for a new build. The bylaw setback for the eastern side is 6 feet. For context, Mr. McLean is on a 50-foot wide lot, and so a request to have a new build put within 2 feet of the property line, in my view, is both excessive, ask, and unnecessary. This is a new building. It could have been designed to fit within the current bylaws governing setbacks for new builds. For additional context, our lot at 508 Lower Spring has a legal non-conforming status on an undersized 25-foot lot. As mentioned, I'm challenging the designation that this is a minor variance as intended in Section 45 of the Act. And so just to go through those, there are 4 tests of a minor variance. I wanted to clarify for the committee that I'm not objecting to the evaluation of the first 3 tests under the Act. So I agree that it maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. I agree that it maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws. I agree that it is an appropriate development for the use of the land. My objection is on the 4th test, which is it minor in nature? My objection, based on the facts and impacts, I strongly believe the requested reduction is not minor. The scale of the setback reduction combined with the direct effects on privacy, noise, and emergency access go well beyond what should be considered minor under the Planning Act. As it relates to the 4th test, there are 2 fundamental pillars that support whether a variance is considered minor. The first is a quantitative measurement, and the second is qualitative. As it relates to quantitative measurement, I'll be able to demonstrate that this is not a minor variance. As it relates to qualitative, this is more subjective and primarily focused on enjoyment of property, privacy, noise, ability of emergency services to operate unencumbered. It is the qualitative aspect within the context of the location of the neighboring buildings and the intent of the Planning Act that I'm requesting the committee to take pause and have a fulsome discussion within the context of our property and the proposed property, which would put the 2 buildings exactly 4 feet apart. I'm questioning if the lens applied on this as a minor variance has been correctly applied. I will provide examples of what I believe to be the qualitative portion through a comparison example between the property to the west of 510 Lower Spring and our property to the east at 508. So let's just jump into it. So the quantitative impact. The proposal is for the eastern setback to be reduced from 6 feet to 2 feet. That's a proposal of a 66% reduction. At 66% reduction, I believe it would generally be accepted that this is not a minor variance. For additional context, the western setback is reduced from 10 feet to 7.2 feet. So that's only a 28% reduction. I feel this is disproportional treatment between the west side and the east side, 66% versus 28%. The qualitative lens, so this is the more subjective part of it. And so I'd sent a couple of images. If the second image could be presented on screen, I would appreciate it. Oh, the count, okay, great. Okay, so there's a couple of images, and just for context, that's a look at the western view from, we have an upper deck, and so these are photos looking west. And so from the western point of view, there is another either home or cottage to the west, but you can see that that is, quite a distance away. And so what I would say is that where the proposed building is being placed, the impact to the western neighbors is likely minimal. The western neighbors are physically separated by natural barriers, elevation, and distance. So the impact as it relates to privacy, noise, and access to emergency services would likely be minimal. Contrast this to the property on the east side. And so I'll ask you to now take a look at, there are 4 pictures there on the east side. And I'm going to go a bit by memory. There is an image there that illustrates what I'll call the 4-foot distance. And so Mr. McLean left up one wall from his previous build. And you can, basically half of that would be 2 feet. So the full distance between the buildings is 4 feet. I guess the other part of that is that you'll notice on our property that there are 2 windows. One is an upper window, upper bedroom window, and there's also a lower bedroom window. And so when you look at those from a qualitative lens, with 2 feet to the property line, so a total of 4 feet between the buildings, full conversations, music, including from a planned music studio, and pet noise. So Mr. McLean has 2 large dogs. From time to time, we'll hear them barking, and they'll react, like they'll just hear us in our cottage. And because the proximity of the buildings are so close, they'll sometimes just bark because they're, reacting to people next door. So there's the pet noise, and then what I would say, it just diminishes our privacy and enjoyment of our cottage. The second piece is emergency access. So the minimal 2-foot setback limits the emergency personnel rate, and so it raises concerns for safety and response in the event of a fire or other emergencies. A fire at that distance jeopardizes both buildings. So maybe just a question to committee when you're thinking about the qualitative aspects of this, when you're, again, I'm trying to juxtapose the west versus the east side. So if you don't accept that there are privacy, noise, and emergency services issues when the buildings are 4 feet away, how close do the buildings actually have to be before those issues are considered? At 1 foot from the property line, on the property line, I think there would be a general consensus that those options aren't available. So to conclude, just on the minor variance piece, when viewed through the lens of a new build where the applicant could design to meet zoning standards but choose not to, these impacts are substantial and cannot be dismissed as minor. The requested variance, both mathematically and practically, is clearly impactful and should not be approved in its current form. What I would suggest to Mr. McLean is that I think there is a path to build his building the way it is, and a compromise available. So by shifting the dwelling 2.5 feet to the west, it would result in a more balanced setbacks. Each side would be 4.5 feet, mitigating the severity of the variance. I do acknowledge that if Mr. McLean was to propose a 4.5-foot variance, it wouldn't eliminate all the issues, but it would lessen it. The second part is irregularities with the application. So it has a reliance on a revoked permit. So a major concern is that the current application relies on approvals and work from a previously issued permit, which was later revoked by the municipality. The permit was invalidated after a stop work order and order to comply were issued, and the legal non-conforming status was lost when the original dwelling was demolished without proper authorization. Relying on work completed from a revoked permit raises questions about the validity of the current application. And then I'll just call your attention to, there's a highlighted section there regarding a reference to DC Buck Engineering. And so this is just questioning, I didn't see the drawings in the original submission. And so the reliance on a revoked permit is further complicated by the fact the foundation and ground floor framing remediation design was delivered by DC Buck Engineering. According to the submitted plans, all work related to the foundation and ground floor framing was specifically referenced as being covered prior to the prior building permit 2025-298 and not included in the current permit application. However, these foundation remediation documents were never made available for public view as part of the original permit submission. At least I didn't see them online as part of the previous submission. At this point, it is unclear what remediation is required for the foundation, why it was omitted from the application, if the foundation remediation is still relevant under this new proposal, and if the applicant provided these documents to the municipality. So to wrap up the irregularities piece. So these two issues with the reliance on a revoked permit, lack of public disclosure of essential foundation remediation documents, raise significant concerns. At best, the situation reflects irregularities in process and that the current application is perpetuating those irregularities. So in closing, this application is for a new build on a wide lot. The requested variances is not minor. It is mathematically a major variance and severely impacts privacy, safety for the eastern neighbor. Additionally, the process has been marked by procedural irregularities, including missing documentation, revoked permits, and incomplete public disclosure. At best, these circumstances are highly irregular. I respectfully ask the committee to reject or defer until a holistic discussion can be had on whether this truly meets the bar of a minor variance, and all procedural concerns are resolved to ensure the process remains transparent and fair to all residents. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeLoza. Councilor Griffin, you had a question?
Thank you. Through you, I have two comments and a question. I think in the interest of us making this decision, it's important for the public to understand that we cannot make decisions based on the lifestyle of the inhabitant of a home. When we are approving homes in terms of planning, we are approving a structure and the space that it occupies, but a person can sell their home or rent their home at any time on any day. And there's no guarantee of whether the person that moves into or out of that home will be a more or less considerate neighbor, have more or fewer pets, whether they will have new or different hobbies. So I think we need to remember that we can't say a person might intend to play music or has a dog, so we're going to deny an application. That's really important to the fairness of this. Because what we're planning is a house that continues to exist in the community, regardless of who occupies it. And I understand the concern about distance to privacy or to lot lines, but we can't say either that a home simply cannot be built because it would be near to a lot line, and there's an assumption that all homes must have a certain distance, because the way that that's being described, that you simply can't be close to your neighbors, if we were enforcing it in the way that I'm hearing, that would mean we can't have townhomes or semi-detached. We'd be completely excluding any type of density. So I think that those can potentially be frustrations raised, but we still have to judge the merit of the structure and not the neighbor. I do have a question about fire. So obviously this is a resubmission of a plan that already existed for the same footprint and the same design. And at the time, we didn't have any comment about concern for emergency responses. So through you to Chief Van Rybroek, is there any new and emergent concern for fire safety?
So if this went forward with the building permit process, there would be stringent fire rating separations because of the distance between the two buildings. So the building code has separations setbacks. So basically, based on the distance to the next building, they would have strict building requirements for fire separation, which would basically meet the needs for us.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Graham?
I agree with through the chair, I agree with Mr. DeRosa. I think 66% is not a minor amount. I don't see what the need is, why it couldn't be 6 feet apart versus 4 feet apart. And that would seem like it would be more of a minor variance. 66 seems either a major variance because it's obviously on the upside. And why wouldn't we follow our bylaws, or at least just provide a minor variance following the bylaws when it comes to those side yard setbacks? It doesn't seem like an unreasonable request to me.
I believe it's being built on the same footprint as the house that was there before. So when you look at a lot, and this is not a lot different than a lot of the properties in Port Stanley, if you look at the lot line between 508 and 506, that's a very tight one as well. So this is one of these things that has happened in the past, and they are building on the same footprint. Councillor Graham?
Through the chair, to the chair, actually. And I agree that there are a lot of things that have been done incorrectly in Port Stanley and probably in other communities, but when we have an opportunity and we're looking at something, he's starting brand new from it, why not do it correctly now? I don't think just because it's been done incorrectly traditionally that we should carry on with that.
Thank you. I believe so. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I just wanted to say, Joe, I appreciate your concerns, and we kind of hashed this out last time when the variance was approved. And I just want to remind everybody, the setbacks exist. Joe's house is right on his property line as well, and they existed this way for a long, long time. I'm actually reducing the size of the lower floor. I'm not sure how many I don't know how many feet, but and just adding where the attic was, a few rooms up there. As far as it being a music studio, and I'm not a recording engineer, I'm in the music business, but I'm not running a studio. I will not be having live music in that room. That was in a design discussion where I said that room would probably, off my office, be my listening room. My stereo room, it's a den. Anyway, my fire wall will be rated to the best we can. It's going to be thoroughly insulated with spray foam and Roxol. And I contest that the neighbor's east wall doesn't meet fire code and is sitting right on his property line. And I'm not disputing that. I'd say his place presents more of a danger to my place after it's hopefully built. So I would have been perfectly happy to have moved the footprint of this cottage in the original application if that's what had to happen. But it was approved and the setbacks were acknowledged as is. And that's why my guys spent all winter hand digging 34-foot bell-shaped piers basically, and hand pouring cement throughout the coldest winter we've ever had. I had a $1,000 heating bill in February as they had to drop heat lamps down in each hole to keep it warm enough. So we were building according to that footprint. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had them dig along the same line. We would have done it. But now, again, I admit we had a problem and intended this to be a renovation, not a new build. I admit that this is the biggest thing that scared me when I was told you have to now reapply as a new build. And I would have complied with that, but I've invested all my life savings on trying to recreate and better the foundation based on the structural engineering reports, which I spent $20,000 on and were fully available and were part of the architectural design. I have my architect online and my builder, if anybody would like to ask them any direct technical questions. I'm just a homeowner trying to mitigate all the needs and wants of everybody. But I think the planning committee has been very helpful with me. Greg Fluitt would be approving permits. So there's so much scrutiny on this little 1,900 square foot building that I would think it's going to be the safest building in Port Stanley, and I guarantee it. So you
Okay.
guys ask away. I'm totally down with, you know, Joe's concerns, but I think they're a little beyond the scope of what this build is and this lot. So anyway.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Okay, is the committee prepared to make a, Councillor Graham?
Through the chair, just wondering if our planning person is here so that he can talk about the difference between a minor and a major variance. If a minor variance is 16, changing it by 66%.
I see Mark heading to the podium. Welcome,
you.
Mark.
Okay. Through the chair and to members of committee. So just to kind of recap, and I'll kind of get into the differences in a moment. So I just want to recap of the original application that was heard and approved by committee back in March. So the original application was, so actually let me take another step back. So there are various powers that the Committee of Adjustment has pursuant to Section 45 of the Planning Act. One is to allow for relief of certain provisions of the zoning bylaw to allow for relief of, deficiencies. The other is to what they call an extension or an enlargement of legal nonconforming use. So the original application recognized the dwelling that was built, what we call legal nonconforming. It wasn't built to the current standards, the current zoning provisions. So the original application was to extend that footprint by building a porch, increasing the height of the building by adding an additional story. So, but it didn't change the physical footprint of it. So that application was approved by the committee. However, subsequent to that, and as the homeowner had explained, there were some structural issues. The home ended up having to be demolished. So when that happens, the structure loses its legal nonconforming status. Accordingly, because that application would no longer be recognized, that decision would no longer be recognized under the Planning Act, to construct a new home, even though it's, within that existing footprint, would now require a minor variance instead of an extension of legal nonconforming. So we're looking at essentially the same footprint and in a form that doesn't necessarily conform. So in terms of looking at numbers, so pursuant to the Planning Act, and this does come up a lot with, many municipalities across Ontario, unfortunately, there is no, criteria or threshold of what determines minor and major. So certain aspects are taken into consideration. We look at the intensity of the use. Are you altering the footprint? Are you, adding additional units? Are you adding additional parking? So there is no magic number that kind of, distinguishes what's considered minor. So we look at the existing dwelling, the zoning permits a single detached dwelling as of right. The home is still generally constructed within the same footprint as what was already there. So unfortunately, just the scope of the application pursuant to the Planning Act has changed. So we're not looking at a legal nonconforming now, but a new dwelling that's still permitted. Now, the committee does have the power to look at relief or to grant relief. And the rationale sometimes with this lot, some lots are undersized. Some lots just don't conform again. So planning recognizes that there are certain case-by-case examples where we would need to have relief because you just can't meet those setbacks, right? Without altering the footprint, altering and doing more damage to the property, excavation, et cetera, things like that. So because the building is not expanding outside of the footprint, we would still deem the application as minor. They're not adding an additional use, and they're essentially just reconstructing something that was there, for the last, 100 years, and pursuant to an application that the committee did previously approve. So that hasn't changed, other than the original home has been demolished, but they're still constructing the same footprint.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, is the committee prepared to make a decision? Councillor Watson.
Yeah, through you, Chair, to Mark or Mr. McLean, as long as that east wall is on the same footprint as before, that's my concern, and it is.
Through the chair, yes. Through the chair, so right now, both lots are legal non-conforming lots. Both homes do not meet the setback requirements from the property line, so both are legal non-conforming. But it's our understanding that that wall hasn't changed. It'll still be fire rated. It'll still be built in accordance to the current Ontario Building Code. And again, that's when we take these evaluations to determine what's minor and what's major. Again, there's no number, but we take into consideration those factors.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, committee's good to make a decision? I will go with everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. The committee's prepared to make a decision. All in favor? Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Zoning bylaw amendment, 165 Maud Street. Ms. Leach, what method of notice was, and when was the notice given to the public?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 120 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on May 25th, 2026. Notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff and also posted to the municipal website.
Okay. Mark Andrews, the planner, is present to provide a brief overview of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you. So the last meeting we had, council had heard the statutory public meeting for what we call the Watermark subdivision. So it's a zoning and official plan amendment application to construct a planned community. So today we are presenting both the draft official plan amendment and the.
Oh, wait.
Is this?
Yeah, we're talking about one.
No,
165 Maud.
My apologies.
Yep.
Okay, I will. I'll defer to my colleague, Mr. Muggle, who's joined us, and he will explain that application.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I apologize.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. My name is Muhammad Mughal, a senior planner with the Planning Department. The applicant submitted the rezoning application to facilitate the semi-detached dwelling. Basically the previously, the property was occupied by a semi-detached dwelling. So recently, the applicant demolished the semi-detached dwelling, and now they are reconstructing the new one with the site-specific exemption. So that's the whole proposal for this property.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions on the proposal?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, correspondence was received from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, including confirming no objection to the proposal and that the subject lands are affected by regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act, whereby permission is required of KCCA prior to any development. Per the March 23rd, 2026 pre-submission consultation, the area is regulated and affected by the flood uprush and will require flood proofing to the flood elevation. As there does not appear to be a change in the elevation drawing from March 23rd, KCCA notes that flood proofing may impact the design of the proposed project. Therefore, it's recommended to consider flood proofing early in the project. Additionally, correspondence was received from Anna Waz indicating opposition to the requested encroachment and building height and concerns regarding the flood proofing elevations.
Thank you. The floor is now open for questions from members of council. Any members of council have any questions? Councillor Graham?
Through the chair. So is it just 2 dwellings then? Can anyone answer that, or is it going to be 4? Yeah, sure.
Wasn't semi-detached.
There you go. So now I'm just rebuilding it. It's going to be a little bigger and 1 story higher. And that's, yes, same as was there before. Yep.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay.
Anybody else on council have a question? No? I see Mohammed's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor. So Ms. Voss, raised her concern that the proposed development encroaching the rear yard setback. So the applicant provided updated zoning bylaw text, and they removed that, where they was requesting for encroachment into the rear yard. So they addressed that issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll now open the floor up for questions from members of the public. Does any members of the public have any questions? Seeing none. Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. Any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the proposal of a bylaw for the proposed amendment should contact the municipality. Any amendment to the bylaw will be considered at a future meeting of council. Thank you. And our next one is 396 Edith Cavell Boulevard. Ms. Leach, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, as per requirements of the Planning Act, notice was mailed by regular post to every owner of land within 120 meters of the subject land and applicable agencies on May 25th, 2026. Notice was physically posted to the property by municipal staff and also posted to the municipal website.
Thank you. Mark Andrews, our planner, is here to provide a brief overview.
Thank you. So the subject application tonight is the statutory public meeting for a zoning bylaw and official plan amendment. So this is in follow-up to a previous consent that was supported by council that was approved by Elgin County some time ago to create a severance for 2 separate lots. The proposal is to establish a single detached dwelling on each lot with an ARU as well. The zoning and legislation framework permits ARUs as of right. So what the zoning and the permissions we're looking at today is not to establish the land use, but to essentially recognize the deficiencies in the lots, so lot areas, lot frontage, things like that, and setbacks. The official plan amendment is required because the Central Elgin official plan requires ARUs to be located either in the rear yard or the interior side yard. Now, just based on the lot fabric and kind of the way Edith Cavell Boulevard is with accessory structures in the front, having the hazard lands in the rear, the shoreline, erosion and whatnot. The applicant has proposed their detached garages in the front with an accessory residential unit on the second level of that. So it's essentially in the front yard. So we are looking at crafting a site-specific policy that will allow the ARUs to be in the front yard, whereas the official plan requires them in the rear. So right now, this is the statutory public meeting. So if council is supportive of this, at the next meeting, we'll have a draft, bylaw and official plan amendment for that for consideration. But like I said, the application is just looking at dealing with some of the lot deficiencies in that provision in the official plan, not for the use itself.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Ms. Leach, have you received any written submissions on the proposal?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, through to council, correspondence was received from the Southwestern Public Health confirming no objection to the proposal, and from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority confirming no objection, and that the property and parcels are affected by natural hazard regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act as they are within the flood uprush. So a KCCA permit will be required for the project. KCCA participated in a prior consultation meeting regarding the subject variance and can confirm that staff have no concerns with what is proposed to support the existing development. Correspondence was also received from the County of Elgin indicating that given the site's location within the shoreline flood hazard limit and adjacent to the dynamic beach hazard area, county staff recommend that any comments from Kettle Creek Conservation Authority be carefully considered prior to any approval decision, and county staff defer to the Conservation Authority regarding the delineation of hazard limits, floodproofing requirements, erosion risks, and any technical studies required to support the proposal.
Thank you. The floor is now open for questions from members of council. Council have any questions? Seeing none. Councillor Graham.
Through the chair to the rest of the council. I think my only concern is if we're creating a slippery slope here, if we're creating a precedence of allowing an ARU in the front yard when our policy says backyards. I'm not sure if it will create a slippery slope, but it is definitely my concern.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? No? The floor is now open for questions from members of the public. Is there any members of the public? Hello, sir. State your name. You just have to hit the microphone. Yep, thank you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Noble, Mayor Sloan, and members of the council. My name is Steve DeFazio, and I reside at 392 Edith Cavell in Port Stanley, so just a couple of over from the said property here. I'm speaking to oppose or ask council to defer this official plan amendment until there is more information available regarding infrastructure capacity and the long-term implications of the application. My first concern is infrastructure, specifically servicing and parking. This proposal indicates an additional residential unit, which would require or increase residential intensity beyond its current state. Before approving that change, I would ask council to clearly demonstrate that existing sewer, drainage, and municipal infrastructure can adapt and support that demand without creating impacts for the surrounding properties. I understand ARUs now fall within the provincial legislation, but it still should be demonstrated that said ARU can be serviced within the existing municipal capabilities. Parking is also a concern. If the additional units do not have adequate on-site parking, overflow parking can affect neighboring properties and streets and change how the area functions day to day. I would ask council to confirm whether parking requirements and realistic vehicle demand has been properly evaluated. However, my main concern is process and expectations. When approval was provided to sever this property into 2 lots, my understanding was that a future ARU requiring a change to the official plan was not part of that proposal. I might be wrong, I'm not certain. I recognize that land use applications can evolve over time, but I am concerned that residents may not have a clear understanding of the end level of development being contemplated. I also believe granting a change to the official plan and allowing the ARU to be located at the front, so the road side of the property in this case, of the main dwelling is not consistent with the overall neighborhood design and ultimately not consistent with the official plan. So same concern there. I'm asking council to consider whether the proposal is consistent with the intent of the previous approvals and whether sufficient information has been provided to support this amendment. At minimum, I request council to defer the decision until residents receive clear information on the servicing, parking, and the full intended use of the property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David.
Steve.
Okay. Is there any other members of the public that wanted to speak to this? Yep. Sure.
Through you, Todd. I'm Mike Mesha, the proponent, and then this is Stephen.
Yeah, my name is Steve Cornwell with CJDL Engineering. I'm a professional planner. I prepared the application on behalf of Mr. Mesha.
Have you seen the presentation, the little package? Mohammed, do you have that? It has been. So do you don't have a way to like put it up so we can walk through it? Everybody does. I'm assuming it's on your screens then, potentially. Okay. So we'll go to page 2, I guess, then. We'll just give you kind of a summary. It's hard with the planning applications because you can't really put many visuals on it. So the idea is we're just going to kind of walk through. This is what we're actually trying to do in the intention. Stephen has more of the like planning implication parts, but it's essentially a severed lot. We're putting a single family home on it. We didn't want to call it an ARU, but that was kind of the planning path we were pushed to. You can think of this more as like a bunkie where your guests might sleep as opposed to these are going to be rental units. They may be, we're not going to be necessarily owners of them, but that's kind of how it was set up. This is like your guest suite above the garage. On the second page, you'll see kind of the site plan of how it's going to be set up. So the intention of this is the parking will be hidden behind the garages for that streetscape. And then, you know, there is lots of parking there. It's in our planning part of it where it shows how many spots we have. You can mention that kind of later. There's already 2 units on, well, it's a severed lot. So there was one already existing. So we're not really intensifying the lot per se, but it depends what that ARU is going to be used. Like it's very small. So if you were going to rent it, this would be like on a very affordable unit. Some single person would probably live there. This wouldn't be like a family that would move in. They're only, I think, what, 300 or 400 square feet, like a studio more so. And that's kind of into that guest suite idea more so. The next page, page 3, has kind of the lot from Google Maps, if you were to look at it. There has been new homes built along the street right now. Most of them all have garages front facing. Our garage will actually be rear facing. So the access to the garage will be facing the beach, if that makes sense. So you have to pull it into a U. And there is a couple examples on page 4 where there's already one that exists. It's a garage detached from the house, 3 doors down to the right, and there's living space above the garage. Back then, they didn't have to call it an ARU. They just was part of their site plan. And there is another one at 386 Edith Cavell to the left. They haven't built it yet, but they have approval for the same idea, detached garage sitting in the front. So we're kind of just following what's already been done on the street. Page 5, just some renderings of what the concept will kind of be. I mean, that's the layout that we've proposed. What the actual colors and finishes are will be more up to the buyers. But that gives you kind of an idea of what it would look like from the front and then the beach side. And then on page 6, you've kind of got an idea of what the garage would look like with scale with the cottage in behind it. So a lot of detail will be put into those garages so they match the house and kind of what's on the street. And I guess it's...
Sure. And so if I could just talk a little bit more about the planning side of things. Just as a reminder, Mark did go over it, but yes, last year with council's recommendation for approval, the County Land Division Committee approved the severance that we're proposing. Of course, that approval is conditional on getting, among other things, a rezoning for the site. From the get-go, we knew that like most lots in the area, we need to adjust the setbacks and everything to permit the main dwelling units. And we had a concept of where those buildings would be when it was before you last year. And so what is different is the addition of this accessory building that would be a garage with a living space above it. And so it seems proper to focus on that today, of course, but just as a reminder, rezoning is needed to still implement the consent, whether or not the ARU that's before you is approved or not. So, and just like Mark said, the province has given municipalities these powers to approve ARUs and encouragement to do so, as well as a way to increase density within existing neighborhoods in a way that makes sense. And so the policies that the township has chosen to approve into their own official plan and into their zoning documents to govern how they are done are meant to be, custom for Central Elgin. And so what we're looking at in particular is this restriction on establishing new accessory building ARUs in the front yard of a residential lot. And I think it's reasonable to look at the general case across the municipality that, yes, a new building in the front yard of most neighborhoods would look really out of place and wouldn't be the sort of thing that would be considered appropriate without additional review, like an application being required so that council would have a chance to look at things in detail. But what we're suggesting is that this particular neighborhood is a bit different, well, significantly. Like Edith Cavell, this is one of the main roads in Port Stanley that fronts on the beach, right? And in particular, the south side of Edith Cavell on this first section before it dead ends, the properties with beach access, there's not that many of them, just a little over 20. About a third of them have 2 units already. This is part of the traditional established pattern for this area where with the beach amenity, there's higher pressure for more units, which long predates the province considerations for ARUs and stuff like that, but which continue with some of the newer builds in the area. And the logic makes a lot of sense. Like in normal areas, in a more typical subdivision in the township, you would have the house with the backyard, and the front of the building is the main area for it. That's where the most amenity is, I guess, outside of a private backyard. But in this case, with the amenity of the beach, where in other situations you would want to have the main building in the front with a smaller building in the back, here the pressure is to have the larger building in the back to make better use of the amenity. And that's been the simple logic that's dictated this existing pattern. And so it also makes sense that that pattern might get a little more exaggerated as time goes on. My understanding is that for a long time, the beach has been consistently growing. And so with the latest examination that the township did of the dynamic beach hazard, the line for development limit related to where that hazard is keeps kind of pushing in the lakeward direction in this part of Port Stanley anyways. So like the idea is like, as the beach gets larger, whenever anyone rebuilds, they'll be pushing their building closer to the lake than the older buildings could. That said, that goes really slow.
Thank you. Yeah. All right.
Any questions? I could just quickly sum. Yeah, so we're just suggesting that to reflect the neighborhood pattern, and we were hoping the visuals would help even with the neighbors that are concerned. Like, we want to impress upon council that our design looks good and will fit in with the neighborhood. That's the extent of what it gets at. And then that fits with what the policies are trying to do that we're looking to and encouraging council to consider amending. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Is there anybody else from the public that wants to speak to this? Okay. Everyone has been given a fair opportunity to be heard. Any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should contact the municipality. Any amendments to the bylaw will be considered at a future meeting of council. Thank you, everyone. And moving on to delegations, speed concerns on Fairview Road. I'd like to welcome Mr. Bruce Smith, who will be providing a presentation regarding the speeding concerns on Fairview. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come.
I just want to, just a quick note that we try to hold the delegations to 10 minutes, but we're running a little bit late today.
Mr. Deputy Mayor and councilors, it'll be shorter than that. So a couple of months ago, I ran into a friend who lives in one of these houses that I'm talking about. And he was frustrated to the point of being actually very angry. And he was talking about the traffic in front of their house there. And I started to look at it, and I think he has a legitimate complaint. And I thought I'd bring it to your attention. With the lady, I was told that it's a county road. So she assisted me to speak to the county engineer, which I did. And he knows that this may end up on his desk somehow. So the difficulty is that these people have to walk across the road for their mail and their garbage. So they don't have any choice but to go across that road on a daily basis. And when you're coming out of the roundabout there's a sign immediately that goes from 20 kilometers an hour to 80 kilometers an hour. So people are accelerating through there. The sight lines are very difficult. When Councillor Morgan and I meet out in front of our houses where our mailboxes are side by each, we can look in each direction and see for 1.5 kilometers. These people can't see very far at all, and neither can the cars coming towards them see them. I compared it to what was going on as you come down Elm and Centennial. They've got it 60 kilometers an hour all the way down to Empire, and those people don't have to cross the road. Those people have mailboxes and garbage pickup all on the same side of the roads of their houses. Whereas the people that I'm talking about right now, south of Southdale, they all have to cross the road. One of the gentlemen is somewhat elderly, and he's has mobility issues, and he's on a scooter. So that even makes it more difficult. Another compounding factor is that when you come out of the roundabout, if you're driving a little car like my little smart car and they're not accelerating quite fast enough, they now put a dotted line in there so people can pass me. So now there may be 2 lanes of traffic coming at you as you're trying to go across for your mail. So I just think that as you look at the different aspects there, that perhaps it would be a good idea to change that to 60 coming out of the roundabout, just down until I figured it, according to my car, 7/10 of a kilometer, and then make it 80 kilometers an hour. It just seemed to make sense. I thought he had a legitimate complaint and that I would bring it to your attention, and it goes from there.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Just one reminder that this is a county road, so I know Andrew and I could probably pass that concern on to Mayor Sloan, and I could pass that concern on to Elgin County at the same time.
Yes, I was hoping you would.
All right.
Thank you very much for your.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, Councilor Graham, you have a question?
I just want to, sir, would it not be advisable to have him delegate at the county? Wouldn't that be more?
You could.
It would be more reasonable to have you delegate at the county, since they're the ones in charge of making those decisions. And perhaps you could contact the clerk and.
Sure, I would be glad to do that. Just when I spoke to Delaney, I said, well, keep me on here and I can get it started here, because I can go there too. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. Our next delegation is the Elgin St. Thomas Age-Friendly Community Strategy. I would like to welcome Megan Leachy, RNBSCN, Southwestern Public Health, and Sarah Sweeney, Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners, who will be providing a presentation regarding the Elgin St. Thomas Age-Friendly Community Strategy. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us. My name is Megan. I am the co-chair of the Elgin St. Thomas Age Friendly Committee. I do want to do a shout out to Wendy McMillan. She's our local senior. She's also our co-chair and a resident of Central Elgin, but had some other commitments, so couldn't be here tonight. And then, yeah, this is Sarah Sweeney, also a member on our committee. So we will do the delegation today for you. Next slide, please. I'll keep going while she's figuring that out. This one's just a list of our partners. So it's just showing that we have many different partners throughout Elgin and St. Thomas that have been working towards becoming an age-friendly committee since the development of the initial strategy, which was in 2017. So by responding to the broad needs of older adults, age-friendly communities strengthen environments, services, and social connections in ways that can enhance the quality of life for every resident, regardless of age. And just to list some of the partners, because while we're waiting for the slides, we have Elgin County, City of St. Thomas, Southwestern Public Health, our CHCs, Town of Elmer, VON, Alzheimer's Society, Community Paramedicine Program, the Regional Geriatric Program, Elder Abuse Elgin, our different libraries, and then we also have local seniors representing on our committee as well. Bill? Yep.
So this background information highlights why this work has been prioritized and updated. The population in our region is aging, and when we compare our rates of older adults to other areas in Ontario, we are higher than the average. There it is. Our region also has some of the highest falls rates in the province. Southwestern Public Health is significantly higher than Ontario for emergency department visits and hospitalizations for injuries related to falls, and is the highest in the province for emergency department visits related to falls in our 75+ population. We're also seeing the emerging risk related to climate change and the projected increase in extreme weather, including extreme heat days. And older adults experience the highest mortality rates and negative health impacts from extreme weather events. And you can see that seniors in Central Elgin make up almost a quarter of the population, and this continues to grow. A significant statistic as well from the Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners is the uptake of referrals for those living with and supporting those living with dementia. At St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital, one program that is working to alleviate these numbers in the emergency department is a dementia resource consultant program through the Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners, which provided support to 314 Elgin residents in 2025-2026, and provided respite dollars to those to get these patients back to their home with supports in place instead of being admitted. Next slide. Excuse me. And then also to update our strategy, we completed a community needs assessment to understand the current realities our older adults are facing. In 2025, we collected data from 239 survey responses, 8 focus groups, and 7 one-on-one interviews with caregivers. It was analyzed with support from Southwestern Public Health and provided a comprehensive understanding of the experiences, challenges, and priorities of adults 50+ in the community.
So for our 2026 update, we kept the same 5 domain areas that we had in the 2017 strategy and used these to plan the needs assessment. The topics of ageism and aging in the right place are also weaved throughout all of these domain areas, and the steering committees had many discussions around those topics. Ageism is a form of discrimination and stereotyping based on age and is a root cause for many of the issues that we see. And while age-based prejudice can affect anyone, research shows that older adults are the age group that endures the most harmful effects from it. Next slide. So just to dive into some of the domains specifically, we'll start with healthcare. So the needs assessment highlighted that healthcare access remains one of the most significant barriers for our adults 50+. Our healthcare partners around our table, which is Elgin OHT, the Regional Geriatric Program, and our CHC partners, are taking the lead for most of this work. And we're also exploring how we can better support fall prevention efforts. And we're waiting on a new report that we partnered with Public Health Ontario, and they took a year's worth of our local paramedic data around lift assists. So this is where patients call 911 because of a fall, but then they're not actually transported to hospital, because we don't have that data captured right now. And we've heard anecdotally from our partners that this can make up around 30 to 40% of the paramedic calls and does take a lot of municipal resources. So we're very curious if when we look at this data, if we can find any trends or patterns or neighborhoods, we could really target some fall prevention initiatives for those reasons and then hopefully reduce that call load for them. Next slide, perfect. So housing. Housing continues to be a major concern in our region. Many older adults shared that they want to age in place, but face barriers such as unsafe home layouts, limited supports, and lack of intermediate housing options between completely independent living and then long-term care. Our steering committee reflected on really great work that's already happening in Elgin St. Thomas, but also acknowledged that we currently have many older tenants that really face complex situations, and some services are not always well coordinated. And we also heard clearly that building design matters. So socially connected buildings, shared spaces, and intergenerational models can significantly reduce loneliness and support older adults to stay in their community longer. We really wanted to come to Central Elgin because we do feel there's a great opportunity with a large new development to explore possibilities for things like dementia-friendly or memory care neighborhoods, such as some developments that we've seen in the Netherlands and even in BC, which Sarah will highlight in a few slides. So for social recreation and community, 64% of the adults 50+ reported taking part in social or recreational activities. So that is a really great solid foundation to build on, but participation isn't equal across groups. So we did note transportation barriers, mobility challenges, affordability, and limited program coordination, meaning that some people still feel very disconnected. So supporting and strengthening Volunteer Elgin was highlighted as a way because we know how valuable our senior volunteers are and how many of our seniors also rely on these volunteer-run programs. And reducing ageism through education and intergenerational opportunities remains a cross-cutting priority and something we hope to focus on. So transportation consistently emerged as one of the biggest barriers to aging in place. This is especially true in our rural areas where we really have no public transit. Survey results showed that only 20% of adults 50+ feel that accessible mobility transit is sufficient, and over 60% said they don't have enough information about the transportation services that do exist. And we do have some great volunteer transportation programs, but again, we're not sure that some of the seniors living in the community are aware of them. So one of our main recommendations for this area is to reestablish a transportation working group for better coordination across providers. And it was also noted in the Elgin Transportation Master Plan about some work around this and the need to create like a centralized website or a transportation resource. So that is something we're hoping we could partner with to get that accomplished within the next year.
And outdoor spaces and buildings. The steering committee noted that this is an area where collaboration is already occurring, but more alignment with our municipal and accessibility committee partners could strengthen outcomes. Using our needs assessment data to inform municipal policies is one of the most significant opportunities for us to integrate older adult considerations into community design. With a new development opportunity in Central Elgin, we would love to explore the possibilities for a dementia-friendly neighborhood park, including park space, multi-generational family housing, and supportive environments. And then there's a few pictures here. So dementia villages are innovative care models that replicate a small town or neighborhood, allowing residents to live as normal as possible while receiving 24-hour support. These communities feature small households, streets, gardens, shops, cafe, and cultural spaces. The Hodgewijk, excuse me if I mispronounced that, facility in the Netherlands was the first to step away from traditional seniors housing and institutions. And in Canada, the Langley Village, so on the right, in British Columbia, utilizes a specialized design with vibrant colored homes and a central artery connecting amenities. And the success of these models are something that future planners and city designers can reference for their own communities. So as far as current initiatives and next steps, the steering committee will continue to support ongoing implementation by identifying and supporting lead partners, increase collaboration and strengthen collaboration across sectors, and align actions with existing municipal, public health, and community planning processes. So some of the current initiatives, dementia-friendly community supporter training, which actually started in Central Elgin, the tail end of last year in 2026. And we're hoping to finish that off this year, which would make you the first municipality in Elgin County to become a dementia-friendly community supporter. So more work on that. Also supporting Grand Pals program, which is an intergenerational program. Exploring senior situation table, communication strategy for older adults, a transportation working group, and data sharing project with local paramedics. Do you want to do final thoughts? Me?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And final thoughts. So we're asking for continued endorsement and support from our Elgin St. Thomas age-friendly strategy, the 2026 update. And all of Elgin County should be proud of their work in becoming an age-friendly community. Thank you for your time, and we are open for any questions.
Thank you, Sarah and Megan. Any questions from council? Councillor Bachman.
Not so much a question, but a statement. Having gone through this down with my parents, I appreciate the effort you guys are putting in to make all of our communities linked and allowing the seniors to stay in place, at least stay in their small town and still be a part of that community. So thank you very much for the time and the effort you guys are putting in.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to correspondence requiring action. Memorandum from Curtis Graham-Bray, Manager of Bylaw. Mover and seconder for the report. You want to read that, Delaney, or?
So in response to memoranda, the information is provided for council to consider, and any motions that members of council may have in relation to the memo could come forward. There is a recommendation there. So if anyone moving and seconding could just be clear on which motion they would like to make, that would be appreciated.
Councillor Graham?
Through the chair, just a quick kind of concern. My concern with this is that there are obviously some other groups that would be considered in this type of change to our bylaw. So, is it something that maybe staff should look a little bit deeper into? Because anyone with a handicap sticker, should we be looking at them along with the veterans, right? Like, I think it needs more than just this memorandum. I think it needs a full staff report on it so that we can look at other groups as well, if we're going to consider any groups at all.
Thank you. Anybody? Councillor Griffin?
Thank you. Through you, I agree, and I would even take that a step farther. I would say that our veterans give safety to our total national community in a way that we are all grateful for. And yet I see overwhelmingly that every single time that we break with policy to make a special exception for any group, I find myself at the next town hall hearing resentment from other communities that are contributing equally. And while veterans certainly make our community safer, so do our firefighters and our nurses and our doctors and our teachers and our librarians and our hydro technicians and our snowplow drivers. And most of these people will never have a license plate to dignify the safety they give to the people in our community. And it becomes impossible to really wholly appreciate all of the people that make our community a safe and decent place to be. And I worry that we don't improve our situation by looking simply because we can identify a group to make exceptions.
Okay. If we don't have a mover and seconder, does the motion fail?
If any member has a motion in relation to their feedback, just noting that the recommendation is that the memorandum be received for information.
Okay. Seconder, that it be received for information. Mayor Sloan? Okay. No further discussion. I'll call the vote. All in favor to receive it for information? Motion carries. And our next one is memorandum from Scott Mayers, Director of Public Works and Community Services, regarding the mural installation request. Scott, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, through the chair. As noted in the memo, just as a longtime facility manager, paintings on buildings is not seen as advantageous just for the long term. As I note in the memo, it's just a number of maintenance challenges that can come with something like this. If council were to approve it, certainly we would want a detailed agreement in place so everyone understands the maintenance responsibilities with something like this. So my notes just simply to highlight the challenges that come with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayers. Councillor Griffin?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. On that note, what do you find are the most successful agreements on that? Do you typically look for an organization to maintain the mural themselves, or do you look for them to sign off and accept that if it's sufficiently vandalized, we paint over? Or what way do you usually see that go?
Through the chair, kind of all of the above. I think there's also the financial piece to this as well. At some point, when the time comes for to repair the building or to repair the mural or to remove it, who's going to be tasked with that cost? Is it the taxpayer or is it the group that we're working with? So I think it's just something we want to be clear at the onset.
And this is the brick building so the brick is ideally a maintenance-free facade that we put on buildings. Okay, I have Councillor Graham and then Councillor Bachman.
Through the chair. So we actually had a previous approval for an installation of a mural in Belmont on the arena, and council approved that. So I think that if we're going to move forward, there should be some consistency when we're approving or making these denials. I know that the village people are open to using panels as well, removable panels. And I know that the building right beside it actually just had last week a mural painted on it. So we're looking at doing or the village people, which I am a part of, are looking at doing a group project for Truth and Reconciliation as well with this, where it involves Standing Stone Public School and Kettle Creek Public School as well. So we're trying to bring the communities together, obviously, starting at a very young age. And again, when we've already gone forward and approved one at Belmont, it would seem that across the municipality, we would try and maintain some consistency with that. And again, I know that they're open with doing panels if that's more amenable to the municipal staff and upkeep and maintenance.
Councillor Bachman?
The flip side, I guess, of that is the artistic improvements that it makes to your community. And driving through Elmer and St. Thomas and the port communities, seeing that on there honestly makes, just as a tourist, makes me feel welcoming. Coming into that community, I feel like they have pride. They express their heritage. We get to see a little bit of their community. And even the people that in the community, like the Belmont proposal they're making, that all came from the pride that they saw in Port and the pride they saw in St. Thomas. The people that take an initiative and they actually show that they care about their community and they're proud of it. And I, for one, would like to see not so, every building painted, obviously, but I enjoy seeing the artistic expression of everyone's community.
I guess my question is it only the one building that was chosen by the village people? Councillor Graham, was there any other options?
There's a consideration for a mural at a privately owned building for the Oneida Landing Day, but we're not sure if that, at this point, that's stalled. So this is, yes, the only one. And if we could call the vote, that would be great.
Any other comments? Councillor Watson?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, or Deputy Mayor. Like, Councillor Graham, if you're with the village people, do you have a little bit of a conflict here talking about this today?
Through the chair, no, because it has nothing to do with monetary. I'm not gaining anything from it. I mean, tentatively, because I'm part of Port Stanley, everything that we do in Port Stanley to beautify it would be declared. And you in Yarmouth and Councillor Griffin in Sparta Union. So no, I've checked and it's fine.
Okay. Mayor Sloan?
Through you, Chair, in answer to Councillor Bachman and Councillor Watson, I agree with you, Councillor Bachman, about how they bring forward a certain interest in the community and they look nice. But my question follows a little bit about what Councillor Watson said. If we have walls or we have buildings that we're looking at putting murals on, which organization do we look to do it? I mean, is there going to be others that want to put something on our buildings? Is it inherent upon or incumbent rather, upon the municipality to see if anyone else wants to do a mural on that building? I guess I'm trying to understand, to Mr. Mayor's point, exactly what the process is. So earlier in the meeting, we talked about how, when we do things on a one-off, there tends to be some blowback, depending on certain regions not seeing what they got or what they wanted. So I'd just like to maybe feel this one through a little bit more, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Watson, you had your hand up?
Yeah, through you, Deputy. Yeah, this report was talking about, denying this, and what's the matter with listening to staff here a little bit and saving our money? So I would like to support the motion the way staff has got it worded here.
Okay. Do we have a mover and seconder for the motion? Councillor Watson? For the one that's on our page, it says that the request for the village people permission to install a mural for the medical facade be denied. Is there a seconder? Okay. Councillor Graham.
I'd like to make the motion that this request be approved.
Do we want to have any input into this? Like, you're saying you want to have the request for this mural that we don't know exactly what it will look like, the size of it, the detail, the professionalism of it, lasting qualities. We do need to have some safe, like if we're going to approve murals, we do need to have some safeguards that staff are comfortable with, because once it's put on the building, it has to be maintained. So, Councillor Graham.
Yep, and we can build into that motion that staff work with the village people to come up with a mutually agreed upon.
Do we want staff to come up with a policy to have this put in place, or I'm kind of looking at Scott for a little bit of direction?
Through the chair, I think it's kind of two things here. One, I wouldn't want to jump to approving something right away without having some sort of formal policy or framework or structure in place. And that's only to protect us from other requests as they come forward. So we have some sort of framework to go on. I think that's the first step. That seems to be the most logical step here before approving a mural at this point. Certainly, if council, if that's the direction, staff would work on an agreement with the Port Stanley Village people with some parameters and a detailed agreement, just again based on the long-term maintenance of it. And capturing some of the things that would be probably caught in a formal policy. So that would be my ideal situation here.
Okay, and I think within that, it should be, the staff should find some locations as well. Like we pick and choose kind of where it makes sense, and have staff look at locations that are possibilities as well. Can that be added in? Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. If I recall the report from when we approved for Belmont, I believe that they proposed not just the location, but also they gave us a proposed design. And I think that we looked at what sort of the maximum cost we might contribute was. I know that a policy can take some time and planning. And if this is something where we're looking to go forward with it, would it maybe be reasonable for us to look for a comparable report that has those elements in place about this one while we examine a policy for ongoing and future murals?
I think before we approve murals, we should have a framework in place. Councillor Grimm.
We've already approved the Belmont one.
The one thing with the Belmont one is it was on a steel-sided building. So there's kind of a difference when you put a mural on a painted surface, because the steel-sided building is painted, and this other building that we're talking about is a brick one. So there's definitely a difference in painting brick than painting steel. Councillor Graham.
So we're talking about panels on both, right? So it's panels. And if we're talking about a policy, it should cover, in my opinion, it should cover all different types of facades. So it wouldn't be that, oh, we only need to approve, or we only need to have a policy now that we're looking at putting panels on a brick building versus putting panels on an arena. So if we've already approved the one, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have a policy, but I'm saying I agree with Councillor Griffin that we could go ahead and have that same type of discussion between staff and this group, which is basically the two schools. It's just running through the village people. So it's the Kettle Creek Public School and the Standing Stone Public School.
Okay. Ms. Leach.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just for some procedural clarification, at this time we have a fluid kind of motion being formulated here as moved by Councillor Graham. If I could take this moment to just kind of clarify the motion that's on the floor and make sure everyone is of the same understanding of what the vote will be on here. So I have that the request from the village people for permission to install a mural on the Port Stanley Medical Center facade be approved as the first clause, and that staff be directed to coordinate with the village people to prepare a mutually agreeable concept and life cycle plan. At this time, Councillor Graham, did you intend to add a third clause regarding policy development for this subject in general?
I think that was Councillor Griffin's request.
This time.
Yeah, that's fine with me, how that stands. But I guess we could request that staff move forward with, in the future year, in the next year, come up with a policy, because it seems to be that it's the trend. I mean, Elmer's doing it, like Councillor Bachman said, Belmont's doing it, St. Thomas is doing it, London is doing it.
Mayor Sloan?
Through the chair, we don't know what the mural is going to look like. That's where I think council should have the ability to take a look before it goes on or is put on a building. That's my point. Thank you.
That makes sense too, yeah, that council approval of the mural be added to the motion. Okay, did you want to read that motion, Delaney, before we vote on it?
So just to update, I have that the request from the village people for permission to install a mural on the Port Stanley Medical Center facade be approved, and that staff be directed to coordinate with the village people to prepare a concept and life cycle plan for council review and approval. I'm not sure where the policy question landed, Councillor Graham. Let me know if you'd like that to be added as well.
Possibly just staff move forward with investigating a policy for the future of any mural requests.
Councillor Griffin seconds it. Okay, any further discussion? Mayor Sloan?
So in its current phase, we don't know what the mural is going to look like. Is that true?
This is true.
Okay, so
is it coming back to council to approve the mural? I believe that's written into the motion, Mayor Sloan.
wasn't read in, I didn't believe, but I'm just confirming that.
Okay, we've confirmed it is. Any further discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed?
If you can register the vote, please.
Just say I lost count.
Councillor Graham?
Yes.
Councillor Griffin?
Yes.
Councillor Watson?
No.
Councillor Connors?
No.
Councillor Bachman?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noble?
No.
Mayor Sloan?
No.
That's defeated.
Okay. And correspondence number 3, memorandum from Delaney Leach, clerk, regarding the signage request from Belmont Historical Society. Do we have a mover and seconder for the installation? Councillor Watson, Councillor Bachman.
Deputy Mayor Noble, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Bogman, that the installation of an historical sign in Ron Lake Park by the Belmont Historical Society be approved per the draft text copy as it included as Schedule A to the memorandum from the clerk dated June 22nd, 2026.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Graham?
Do we have a policy about this?
Ms. Leach?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, at this time, the general policy framework for requests for such installations in municipal parks is that these types of requests defer to council for approval. So in this sense and in the context of requests of this nature, of which there have been, I believe, 3 from this group installing this signage infrastructure in our parks, the same approach has been taken each time, where the proposed concept being the text copy and the permission itself comes to council for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Graham?
And do we know what the maintenance costs and timelines are for these signs? If Mr. Mayers could speak to that?
Scott?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of the costs exactly. I could look into that and get back to you. I don't know them at this point.
Just for clarification, these are put on private property, right? They're not put on, are they put on municipal? Okay, all right, stand corrected. All right, Councillor Bachman.
Yeah, they're not all, there's a few of them around town now pointing out historical significance in the town. This one is a small little parkette across from the variety store area, the plaza downtown. It's a little parkette that they have, and it's just going to be basically a historical map of the original town back in 18 whatever year it was, just kind of showing the main street with some historical significance behind it, more of a piece for people walking and just regular information.
This is a freestanding.
Yep.
Councillor Bachman, thank you. Okay, we okay to call the vote? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Receive for information 2025 Elgin County OPP Annual Report. Mover and seconder. Councillor Griffin, Mayor Sloan. Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. And reports, Director of Planning and Engineering Services, DPE 3626. Mr. Brooks, are you speaking to this or are we?
Nothing to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. We have a mover and seconder for the Port Stanley storm sewer upsizing. Councillor Griffin, Councillor Watson.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Watson. The Cassidy Construction London Limited be selected to complete the Port Stanley Storm Sewer Upsizing Phase 1B project at a total cost of $2,065,949.50, inclusive of a contingency of $150,000 and exclusive of HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this? Councillor Watson?
Just in the verbiage of the contract, make sure they pull the plug out before the last thing they do.
Oh dear. All right, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Councillor Watson. DPE 3826, Belmont and 7th Ave Contribution Agreement. Mover and seconder. Councillor Bachman. Mayor Sloan.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Mayor Sloan, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the Belmont Road and 7th Avenue contribution agreement with the County of Elgin.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. DPE 4026, application for consent, E4026, Shorely Line, Central Elgin. Mover and seconder. Councillor Watson. Councillor Connors.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Connors. That consent application E4026 pertaining to the property municipally known as 42062 Shorelea Line be supported, subject to the conditions outlined in attachment D to report DPE 4026, as the application represents good planning, conforms with the applicable planning policy framework, and is in the public interest, and that staff be directed to forward a copy of the council resolution regarding DPE 4026 to the Elgin County Land Division Committee for consideration.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. And DPE 4126, application for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, Watermark subdivision. I understand that Mark Andrews would like to explain a technical amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Members of council. So the purpose of this report is to seek council adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment as well as the adoption of the official plan amendment for the Watermark subdivision. The statutory public meeting was held for these applications at the May 11th regular council meeting. So the matter tonight is the official adoption of the zoning bylaw to rezone the subject lands to facilitate the future draft plan of subdivision on the subject lands, and the adoption of the official plan amendment, which will, assuming council adopts that, will be forwarded to the County of Elgin for final approval on that matter as the delegated authority. The technical matter that I am going to address tonight, so the last week when the agenda was posted, the zoning bylaw, which is bylaw 2026-045, in one of the provisions, we had typed in that the minimum gross floor area for a single detached dwelling in that R1, that site-specific zone, was 83 square meters. However, the zoning bylaw requires 70 square meters, and the applicant had reached out to us to correct that technicality last week, that there were a number of iterations of that draft that went around, and it was simply an oversight on that matter. So we want to just advise council that adjustment has been made. So the bylaw will be corrected to reflect that 70 square meters as opposed to 83. We evaluated that. It doesn't change or alter the development proposal at all. The number of lots still remains the same. It's just a matter of just being consistent with the original R1 provisions of the Yarmouth bylaw.
Thank you, Mark. Can I get a mover and seconder for this? Councillor Bachman, Councillor Griffin? And questions or comments on this? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Mark. Application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0326, 410 Sunset Drive. Mover and seconder for this. Councillor Bachman, Councillor Watson.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Bogman, seconded by Councillor Watson, that application ZBA 326 to amend the Township of Yarmouth zoning bylaw as amended and as outlined be approved for reasons outlined in report DPE 4226, that the proposal is deemed to be consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, conforms to the Central Elgin Official Plan, Elgin County Official Plan, and has sufficient regard for matters of provincial interest under the Planning Act, and the bylaw 2026-46 be approved.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries. DPE 4526, application for draft plan of subdivision approval, proposed draft conditions, Watermark subdivision, legal description, concession 2, lot 2, East Road. Mover and seconder. Mayor Sloan, Councillor Griffin.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Mayor Sloan, seconded by Councillor Griffin, that report DPE 4226, application for draft plan of subdivision approval, proposed draft conditions Watermark subdivision be received, and that the municipal draft plan conditions attached to Schedule C to report DPE 4526 be endorsed and forwarded to the Director of Planning and Development for the County of Elgin, with request that they be included in the county's decision regarding the proposed draft plan of subdivision.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. DPE 4626, Van Zatten Drain, subsequent connection to drainage works. Mover and seconder. Councillor Watson, Mayor Sloan.
So motion for that is moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Mayor Sloan, that the clerk be directed to instruct Brandon Widner, P.Eng. of Spreed Associates Limited, to review and assess lands from the Malik Drain into the Van Zanten Drain under Section 65(3) of the Drainage Act.
Questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. And DPE 4826, award of proposal CE 2026-104, municipal class environmental assessment. Mover and seconder. Councillor Griffin. Councillor Bachman.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion is moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that the proposal submitted by Stantec Consulting Limited for the Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Schedule B for the Hospital Lands Water Storage and Booster Pump Project be accepted for the total cost of $289,500 excluding HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. DPE 4926, award for request for quotations, Pleasant Valley Line Bridge engineering consultant. Mover and seconder. Councillor Griffin, Mayor Sloan.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Mayor Sloan, that the quotation submitted for engineering consulting services for the Pleasant Valley Line Bridge by Spree Associates London Limited be accepted for the total cost of $75,900 excluding HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. DPE 5026, application for exemption to noise bylaw number 212 as amended, Riva Italian Restaurant. Mover and seconder. Mayor Sloan, Councillor Watson.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Mayor Sloan, seconded by Councillor Watson, that an exemption to bylaw number 212, being a bylaw to control noise in the municipality of Central Elgin as amended, be granted to allow Riva Italian Restaurant to host music events taking place June 27th, July 18th, July 25th, August 15th, and August 29th, 2026.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Graham.
Through the chair, I think that, if they're requesting it for one day throughout the year or throughout the summer, it would be different. But when they're requesting it for 5 different dates, and as well, you're going to then get the Pierside and Barnacles and the 3 other places in town. So then we would potentially have 5 to 6 different places asking for exemptions for this, for our noise bylaw throughout the entire summer. The whole reason that we have the noise bylaw, and I believe it's 11 p.m., not midnight, as it says on the memorandum. If Mr. Brooks could confirm that it's 11 p.m. since he's director of bylaw. But either way, again, it's going to be all the other places that are going to be coming forward. So are we just going to do away with that bylaw, our noise bylaw, for the course of the summer? I don't think this is a good idea. Again, if it was 1 or 2 dates, but 5 dates and then 5 dates from Pierside, 5 dates from 782, 5 dates from Barnacles, it's not going to be a good situation in Port with this.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Through you. When people in the community ask me to explain the relationship between staff and council to them, I generally tell them to think about it like a head and a heart. So we typically have a policy, and that policy allows our staff to go forward and approve things basically on autopilot. They don't need to check in. We've already said that that would be fine. And the whole point of council is to be the heart element and to decide sometimes that a community thing is worth it. And that's true whether we're approving fireworks or gun club competitions. There are so many different times that we make exceptions, and that's the point of these reports, is for us to decide if a thing is of benefit to our community. So I don't think there's any point in us ever just saying, well, the policy exists, so let's never, ever, ever, when it comes to noise, because then the answer is we don't have concerts, we don't have competitions, we don't have celebrations, we don't have any of those things.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Mayor Sloan?
Just going to suggest you call the vote, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. All in favor? And opposed? Motion carries. Okay. DPE 5125, Union Wastewater Servicing. Mover and seconder? Councillor Connors, Mayor Sloan?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Mayor Sloan, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a memorandum of understanding with the participating union development group, subject to final review by the Chief Administrative Officer and Municipal Solicitor, and that staff be directed to prepare and issue a request for proposals for engineering services related to the design of Stage 1 wastewater servicing infrastructure for Union.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Director of Public Works and Community Services, PWCS 1326, CA Medical, Bell Medical Center lease agreement. Mover and seconder. Councillor Connors, Councillor Watson.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the amending agreement for the lease at 285 Bridge Street, Port Stanley, attached as Appendix 1 to report PWCS 1326.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. PWCS 1426, Thames Valley School Board District reciprocating agreement. Mover and seconder. Councillor Bachman. Councillor Watson.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the reciprocal facilities use agreement between the municipality of Central Elgin and the Thames Valley District School Board, attached as Appendix 1 to report PWCS 1426, and the staff be authorized to take all necessary steps to implement the agreement.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Director of Corporate Services, Treasurer, DCS 0826, 2026 Q1 Financial Update. Mover and seconder. Councillor Connors, Councillor Bachman.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Connors, seconded by Councillor Bogman, that report DCS 826 regarding the 2026 Q1 financial update be received for information.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. DCS 0926, Investment Update. Mover and seconder. Councillor Griffin. Councillor Bachman.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that on or about August 20th, 2026, the $2,275,900 held with the Bank of Nova Scotia be reinvested in a 2-year investment at the higher of market rate or negotiated rate. That on or about August 20th, 2026, the $2,275,900 held with the Bank of Nova Scotia be topped up to $5 million using surplus funds from the general bank account. And that on or about August 24th, 2026, the $10,265,271 held with the Bank of Montreal, the boundary adjustment compensation, be reinvested in a 5-year investment at the higher of market rate or negotiated rate.
Thank you. I have one question for Mr. Jansoon. The 10 million, do we have a rough idea of the interest rate that we may receive at this time on that?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Right now, it's hard to say. The investment's 2 months out, so the rate will change. But at the time of writing this report, it was about 3.2%.
Okay. Would it be prudent to hold off and as we get a little bit closer, make another assessment of that, or?
We would aggressively going after the best rate that we could on August 24th. This approach does have a nice strategy for laddering those investments. If council decided that this was approved tonight, Central Elgin would have $5 million coming due in 2028, another 2.3 million coming due in 2030, and 10.3 million coming due in 2031. So it is a nice laddered approach to the investments. But we don't have the firm rates as of today.
Okay. It'd only be 10.3 million coming forward in 5 years?
10.3 would be the amount that we would invest.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yes.
Mayor Sloan?
Mr. Jensen, through the chair to Mr. Jensen, when I asked you were some other options other than GICs, what is available for us when we want to lock in? And I'm speaking specifically to the $10 million from St. Thomas.
That's a good question. We would be looking at GICs and anything that guarantees principal.
Through the chair, I'm aware of that. But with $10 million and the opportunities that we have as a municipality for investing, there's more than GICs. So there's a couple of things that have come forward. One, we haven't gone to other banks to see how we're going to give them what they would do for $10 million, which we did last time. So we had a bit of a bidding war between two to get a better rate because we're looking at $10.3 million. Also, it's not due until August the 22nd, and we have another meeting before then. But three, I would like to know what other municipalities do when they have the opportunity to lock in for a longer term, a sizable portion of money, like the $10.3 million for more than 5 years.
Mr. Jensen?
We can definitely look into that and get back to you in July.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Watson?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Dave Jansoon. On that 2.3 million we got, and we're going to top it up to $5 million. What's the point of doing that? To get a better investment tool for us down the road? And do we have how much surplus funds do we have in our general bank account? Thanks.
Through the Deputy Mayor. All good questions. So surplus cash, we typically use around $13 million as a float. And our cash balance right now is between 18 and 22 million. So we are proposing taking about 2.5 million of that as surplus and investing it. You're getting a slightly better rate, not a lot, but a little bit. And that's would be what we're trying to do.
Okay. Just a question about maybe removing the 10 million in that motion and having staff come back and give us an idea of it next month at our next meeting. I forget who moved and seconded it. Okay. Don't know if there's interest in that, changing that or not.
I think it's great if we get a report in the future, but I'd really like to see us just make our plan and move with it right now.
Okay.
So,
Mayor Sloan?
So if you want me to do two things, one through the deputy or through the CAO, when it comes to the strong mayors and being responsible for the budget, can you explain to me what the role is of the mayor when it comes to the investment of the money, please?
Mr. McLeod?
To be honest, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I don't have that answer for you right now.
Okay. So just through the chair again, I'm saying and I'm asking that the $10 million be separated because we are looking to take that money, which we had to fight hard for on behalf of our constituents, and perhaps see if there's something more than 3%. Now, I realize that some people don't know or don't think, or there's any sort of an inducement to do it now. There isn't. When we don't know what the options are. So I'm asking either through a deferral of this till the next meeting, and I believe, Mr. McLeod, we're having one in July, or to August, which is again before the 22nd. And that's the request that I'm making.
Okay. Did you want to comment on that, Mr. McLeod?
First, right?
Okay. All right. Sure. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Through you, I'm trying to understand some of that comment. Through you to the mayor, are you suggesting that you would like to use a veto power? And if so, is there a reason you wouldn't want to use it in the window following the meeting?
No, I'm not actually. Through the chair, I'm asking for Mr. Jensen, who was asked of information. Are there other options other than GICs to come back with something which he said he would come back with? I'm asking for him to be given that time. That's my request.
Mayor Sloan, are you looking to make an amendment to the motion?
Amend the motion that the $10 million does not decided on this evening. It's decided on at the next meeting of council.
Is there a seconder for Mayor Sloan's motion? Councillor Watson? Are we prepared to vote on the amendment? I think we are. Okay. Okay. All in favor on the amendment? And motion carries.
Thank you.
So the original motion as amended would be that on or about August 20th, 2026, the $2,275,900 held with the Bank of Nova Scotia be reinvested in a 2-year investment at the higher of market rate or negotiated rate. That on or about August 20th, 2026, the $2,275,900 held with the Bank of Nova Scotia be topped up to $5 million using surplus funds from the general bank account. And that staff be directed to report back regarding investment options for the $10,265,271 held with the Bank of Montreal boundary adjustment compensation.
Thank you. And are we prepared to vote? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Bylaws. We're going to separate out a bylaw, right? 46. Okay. So motion to accept the bylaws 26044, 2026-045, 2026-047, 048, and 049. I left out 46, right? And mover and seconder. Councillor Griffin, Councillor Bachman.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bachman. The bylaws 2026-44, 45, 47, 48, and 49 be read a first time and passed.
All in favor? Motion carries. And then finally, bylaw 2026-046, mover and seconder. Councillor Bachman, Councillor Connors.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Councillor Connors, that bylaw 2026-46 be read a first time and passed.
All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, motions and notices of motion, vacant property policy, Councillor Griffin. Mover and seconder, Councillor Griffin, Councillor Bachman.
So the motion for that is moved by Councillor Griffin, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that staff be directed to prepare a report on addressing vacant property solutions for the municipality of Central Elgin, including but not limited to vacant property registries, taxation tools, enforcement mechanisms, and incentive-based approaches, with consideration given to emergency responder safety, housing availability, and neighborhood stewardship.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed?
Through you, may I call for that to be recorded?
Sure.
Counselor Graham,
Yes.
Counselor Griffin,
Yes.
Counselor Watson,
How do you no vote or not no vote, but undecided? Did you just say undecided? Yeah. Oh, really? I don't know enough. I'll say no then.
Counselor Connors,
No.
Counselor Bachman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noble,
No.
Mayor Sloan.
No.
That's defeated.
And investigation from Pump House Beach and or Little Creek Park has potential locations for a dog park. Councillor Graham. Mover is Councillor Graham, seconder. Councillor Bachman.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the motion for that is moved by Counselor Graham, seconded by Counselor Bachman. That staff be directed to investigate Pump House Beach and or Little Creek Park as potential locations for a municipal dog park and report back to council on the feasibility of establishing an off-leash dog park at either site. And further, that the investigation include but not be limited to the items as outlined. That staff provide recommendations to council identifying whether one or both locations are suitable for a dog park, along with any preferred site implementation considerations and associated budget implications.
Thank you. Councillor Griffin, I think, had her hand up first, but.
Thank you. Through you. We've recently undertaken our Trails and Recreation Master Plan study. We've had community surveys online and at different community centers, and we're still waiting for some information back on that. So before I consider how I would feel about this, I would like to know whether we've received any feedback through that process about dog parks and whether that's something we can expect to see in the report, because this is limited to 2 parks and 1 community. And if it turns out that we have more call for this in another community, or if we're going to get a report that explores more locations, I'd like to know about that before we vote.
Scott Mears, can you speak to that?
Yes, through the chair. We have received some correspondence through the engagement surveys, et cetera, in relation to off-leash parks. Certainly we're still working through that process. I think, with all due respect, I think my recommendation would be to allow that that master plan project to continue and evolve. I think we'll allow the consultant time to review those responses, weigh it against the community input, et cetera, standards and things like that, understanding our park infrastructure. I certainly, on my tour with the consultant, noted the Little Creek area as something that was highlighted as noted through Councillor Graham as a potential site. So those items are being addressed through the master plan. Certainly I've got some familiarity with this in my past life. So there is a lot more to consider when it comes to off-leash parks or off-leash areas in general. I think there's a lot of information that council needs to consider before making any long-term decisions with that. Things like parking, traffic, noise, ongoing costs, maintenance. I think there's opportunities there. I'm not by any means saying I'm against them. Actually, I would be supportive of it. I think it just needs to be in the right place, and there needs to be a very thoughtful conversation in regards to that.
When could we expect that report back to council?
Through the chair, we're expecting that in September.
September, okay. Great. Councillor Graham.
So this notice of motion is to ensure that the master rec plan had taken into consideration dog parks, primarily in Port Stanley. I didn't know if the other wards were interested in that. But that's why it's been brought forward as a notice of motion, and it does obviously note that there are a lot of potential impacts on the existing park users. We want to make sure about disposal stations, smell, signage, seating, maintenance needs, infrastructure requirements, obviously traffic, parking. So we just want to ensure this notice of motion, the reason for it was to ensure that staff is considering this in our master rec plan.
Okay. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Through you, I do think it's important to explore, and I think that a number of us have heard from different residents on the topic, but it seems to me that the motion narrows the investigation, whereas the master plan appears to have a little bit more breadth and scope to it. And rather than explore a few specifically named locations and a few specific criteria, I think I would rather get the more full report.
Mr. Mayor.
Through the chair. Certainly to Councillor Griffin's point, I think we should, again, allowing the process, Monteith Brown's going to look at this as a community, as this initiative as a whole throughout the community. So I think they'll have some recommendations with that. It could be very vague in that, perhaps install 1 or 2 off-leash parks in various areas or so on. Then at that point, I think there's a deeper dive into this from a public information, hosting a public information center so that we can get all of the items that's referenced here, the under consideration. In my history with this, there is a level of NIMBYism with this as well. So I think we have to be mindful of that, especially around the location that may or may not be selected. So I think, allowing, certainly, I think we've captured, what Councillor Graham is looking at, but again, at some point, there will be a much deeper conversation, I think, with the community to engage further on this.
Thank you. So we should probably let the consultant that we're paying finish their job before we go on to the next thing. Okay. Councillor Graham.
And again, this was to ensure that those 2 sites are considered because of the petition that's been going around, the reach outs that I've had from different constituents. So whether there are multiple other considerations for Port Stanley or Central Elgin, we want to make sure that these are on the radar of the consultant, Mr. Mayers. Okay.
Yep, through the chair, they are, like I said, on our tours, I certainly noted Little Creek. I did have a meeting with Steve Langlois this morning, so I noted the notice of motion for him, and the pump house, I've listed that to him as well for considerations.
So do we want to table this motion for a while? That works? Okay. Do we need a motion to table? Yeah. It's on the floors. So we do need to table it. Mover and seconder to table the motion. Councillor Graham. So the motion will be to table this until after the rec plan comes back and we look at recommendations and make maybe some suggestions. So is there a seconder for Michelle's motion? Councillor Connors? Councillor Griffin?
Through you, and I'll say this again just for the benefit of those online. It seems like tabling this so that we can reopen it at the time of the master plan is a redundancy because either the master plan includes these locations and this is something we get to have a full deep dive discussion about where we include the needs of the total community, the best way for the most people to access a park, et cetera, Or if they come back actively not recommending one or both of these, that would tell me that there's a specific reason that it was found to be problematic. And that's a part of that discussion too. So if we're looking to pick this up at the time of the master plan, what we're suggesting is that we're going to get data based on what all 14,000 of our community members have had access to share with us. And then if that answer doesn't align with this answer, we're going to throw that out anyway so that we can discuss this. Like, why would we not just wait to get the actual data that we've paid money for and explore that instead of planning to have two separate discussions in the same month about the same topic, one with data and one without?
So we can vote on the table, and if we decide not to table it, then we can vote on the motion. So the motion on the floor is to table the motion. I hope that's clear enough for everybody. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And opposed? I'm not really sure where that went.
Councillor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Griffin,
No.
Councillor Watson,
No.
Councillor Connors,
Yes.
Councillor Bogman,
No.
Deputy Mayor Noble,
Yes.
Mayor Sloan.
Yes.
That's carried.
Okay. So we'll now vote on the original motion? No? Oh, gotcha. All right. That wasn't confusing. Here's an easy one. We'll proceed into closed with a mover and seconder and a vote. Councillor Griffin, Councillor Bachman. All in favor? We're in closed, folks.